Here we have one of the most prolific, if not the most prolific, scholastic organizer and supporter of scholastic chess in the United States and in the world, Dean of Scholastic Chess, Dewain Barber. Thank you for joining me. Uh, I think I'll do it a disservice, but can you explain your place in the chess community?
Thank you, Dylan. It's a pleasure to be here. I'll try to keep it down to 3 hours because that's what everybody fears is asking me to speak at an opening ceremony or something, and they figure, oh, we have to be out of here in an hour. So my apologies to all of your guests who are listening to this or whatever. But I think my place in the world of scholastic chess, and that's how I see myself, is to make certain that we not let any child who wants to learn about chess to become excited about chess and to share chess. Wow, that's a lot of tasks. But we want every one of those children, no matter where they are from, in the world. That's a hard one to understand, but that's how I view it, that no one's left out of this opportunity to learn about a game that is centuries and centuries old. And it does share so many activities and skills for that young person that I've been pleased that I've been involved in scholastic chess uh, for the last 50 years. So,
Wow.
been quite a pleasure.
Wow, that's fantastic. 50 years. How does that make you feel to have been a part of and affected the lives of all these students?
Old. That's all I can say. You just got to say it's old. But the I think the point is that if I had ever realized that I was going to be here at this point in my life, way back in the 1970s when I first became involved in scholastic chess within my own community,
Hmm.
I would have said, "There's no way you're picking on the wrong guy. There's probably 10 people out there that could easily put chess together and do a few things." So I think that that is the overwhelming part, and it's true with a lot of people. Man, I didn't realize I'd be president of that corporate entity worth $25 billion. So
Hmm.
I think we're all shocked at how far we've come and what we've been able to share with the people that we have worked with.
Okay, well, that's the perfect opportunity. Let's go back to the 1970s and before. First though, can you tell us how you started playing chess or what got you into chess?
What got me into chess is very typical. And it happened to be my brother Dwight. Dwight came home and we were our family was a military family. My father had been in the Navy for nearly 12, 13 years, had gone through World War II. And so, as a Navy family, you moved around. And you never knew the day when your father was going to come in and say, okay, pack up. So, we had to be ready to go anywhere in the world that he happened to go. And in this case, we happened to be in the state of Oklahoma. And my brother came in and he said something, something to the effect, well, you don't believe this guy. He beat me in like two or three moves. And I don't understand that. And I looked at him and I was kind of shocked. And, well, what are you talking about? Well, the game of chess. Chess? So what's that? I heard something about knights or pawns or something. And he said, yeah, let me show you. Let me show you. So we sat down and he went through and showed me how the pieces move. And so that was my start. And it's very typical because
Yeah.
most families find that father or mom or friend at the school or whatever shows them here's the part I want to really emphasize that people miss. We have chess instructors who are 5 or 6 years old. And a lot of people consider, oh, well, I don't think anybody can learn chess unless they take instruction from an expert or a master in chess. What people forget is that sharing the game doesn't always come from a higher up who's somebody who has had great success. I greet all of my students when I provide instruction at the middle school I used to teach at. I greet all of them by saying, "Hi there, how are my chess instructors?" And they look at me like, "What?" They are. They're going to be the parents. They're going to be the high schoolers, the college kids. They're going to be the ones who are going to show their friends what chess is about. And yes, there are people that learn online, but it's important to realize that the starting point doesn't have to be perfection. I really get upset when somebody says, "Oh, no, the kid, he might be taught something wrong." That statement is wrong. What we need to do is engage them in the thrill, excitement, and joy of chess. Wow, thrill, excitement, joy. I got to keep counting on how many words I'm using here. But that's the goal. Why not have every single person who knows how to play chess be an instructor, be a person who introduces the game? Then we would have millions upon millions upon millions of chess players out there who say, "Yeah, I learned from my uncle," or "Yeah, I learned from my buddy who's in fifth grade." Why not? Why not learn from it? I think that every person involved in instructional chess has a place, and I think we can all support that and be a part of that.
That's excellent. Okay, so you learned to play. What age was that you learned to play?
9 years old.
9 years old. Okay, and let's fast forward a little bit. I know you became a school teacher. What year did you become a school teacher?
In 1968, I graduated from Northern Arizona University.
All right.
I was not active in chess at the university. I had a master's degree in the teaching of history.
Okay.
So the word history is not the teaching of chess. So my wife and I are deciding. By the way, I met her at the university there. And so we got married. And then, as when we got married, we looked around, and she was a teacher of Spanish and history. And so we decided we wanted to come to California and see if the opportunity was there. And sure enough, a school district, Buena Park Elementary School District, hired us. And so we both ended up at the middle schools, the junior high at that time. And so the junior high school, I was at one of them and she was at the other. And that was what our life was about. But then I happened to be finding out a little bit about chess. And so at that point, after a couple of years, I said, "Hey, let's find out more about that." Bobby Fischer, of course, was active, and
Yeah.
so chess became a visible image of something that might be done. In
Right.
this case, in the late 70s.
Right. And what was it like to experience the Bobby Fischer years?
I think it was, the guy that was up against the great monolith. I call the great monolith being the folks in Russia.
Yeah.
That they had been winning titles over and over and over again. And here comes this American along. And this is a typical of that theme of somebody who comes along and upsets the apple cart. In this case, he upset all kinds of things as he began to play the game and to show that it had skill and an activity that could be done, and you didn't have to be Russian. And there had been other strong players, certainly, but Bobby Fischer caught everybody's attention, and the news media picked up on it.
Hmm.
I've been to Iceland. I have visited the site where the match was played. Of course, thousands of tourists have done that. But I realized that, wow, there's something here. What can I learn more from that experience?
Excellent. And then, were you playing competitively yourself?
No, I really wasn't. I don't consider that my activity occurred until a little bit later. And my activity was really triggered by a principal. The
Oh.
principal, the principal said to all the teachers, okay, all of you, you have to have a program, an activity, because we're going to have an activity period. And I thought, oh, well, no, I'm not going to be the basketball coach. No, I'm not going to go in the shop and cut off a finger. No, I'm not going to cook pastrami. And so I'm looking at all these things and I thought, hold it. I like games. I enjoyed them. And so I'm going to have a games club. And that's what I created. I had brought in, we had Monopoly and checkers, and then we had a chess set and all of this. But what I found fascinating was the game of chess,
Yeah.
because watching my students making these moves and say, well, can I move the pawn over here? I said, no, he doesn't move like a knight. He just goes forward. And so I began to get more instruction. And also, I found that this club had enough players who wanted to be involved in chess that we could learn a little bit more. So I researched and came up with an organization called the Orange County Chess Association.
Uh huh.
And that was our local county organization that was involved in chess. And so I decided, hey, what the heck? I'll go and attend one of their meetings. So I walked in, and there's these like 20 people. And of course, there's only two scholastic persons in the crowd.
Right.
And they're from the La Palma Chess Club, the Cerritos Chess Club, all of the chess clubs around my county area. And then there were one or two teachers that happened to be involved in chess. And so I sat there listening to a guy named Bernard Morrison. And the guy had come originally from Belgium, moved to New York, and then finally ended up in Southern California in my county, in the city of Santa Ana. And so I listened to him and I thought, whoa, there's a lot that can be done. And then he told me, he says, you ought to come and get excited. And I thought, hold it, get excited. Uh, what do you mean get excited? Yeah, I've got a fourth grade class you've got to meet. And I thought, uh, I'm a middle school teacher. I don't handle elementary and kinder that well. And so, sure enough, I got in the car and I drove him over there. At that time, he was about 80 years of age. I
Oh
drove him
wow.
there, walked in, and here's all of these kids. And I thought, how do you teach these people? And so that was a fun experience. And we do have a tournament named after Bernard Morrison,
That's right.
who was to me the founder of a lot of scholastic chess that happened in my county. And then, of course, it spread throughout the area, the LA area, when we began to see more and more schools. Isaac Kashtan, grandmaster from New York, showed up in Los Angeles, and he began uh, by offering a chess tournament, a Thanksgiving chess tournament. So
Okay.
we would go to that, and that was a lot of fun. We enjoyed ourselves.
So, so did you work with Morrison to create programs then,
Yeah,
or how did that get going?
we did. And he suggested, hey, let's do something in Thanksgiving in our county.
Uh
I
huh.
said, okay, so what do you want to do? And he said, host a free tournament. Not a challenge. We just open the door and let the people come in. I said, okay, I'll be happy to help out and everything. And so we hosted a free tournament for the kids. And instead of expecting maybe 10 or 12, we wanted to know. We all looked at each other. What do we do with 70 kids? And so it was a learning process of how do you handle that many kids in a space with a bunch of chessboards or whatever.
Which is funny because now you handle hundreds, if not thousands, of kids at events. So that was the first year. How many years has that tournament been running now?
That tournament is 46 years old, I believe.
That's absolutely incredible. Um, and then I'm assuming you started to see some growth from there. Can you explain a little bit of the growth and the interest in the community?
Yeah, well, I decided that it would be a good idea for us to branch out and attract other kids from other areas, welcome them, say, hey, come on over, play chess. And so at that time, I looked around to find out what groups and organizations happened to be, and I came across the Southern California Chess Federation. So they were having a meeting at Lena Grumet's home. Now,
Okay,
if you know your history, you know that Lena Grumet at one time was a helpful person to Bobby Fischer.
right.
She stayed at his house, and so I thought, well, I'm really going to get into chess now. And so I went over to Lena Grumet's house, and I contacted one of the persons in the Southern California Chess Federation um, committee, the board, and I said, "Can I come and visit?" And so I came over and visited, and I sat down, and I'm seeing the chess sets and all of that. But then I looked around about something that has been puzzling me for a lot of my life. I didn't meet or see anybody at that meeting who was involved in scholastic chess.
Wow.
They all had clubs, they all ran adult events. And
Mm-hmm.
even a couple of them later on commented, well, we don't let them crazy kids come in and disturb us. We're chess players.
Ah.
So I was a bit surprised that scholastic chess wasn't represented. But then they asked me to speak, and I said, "Yeah, I'm from Orange County. I've been doing a tournament, Bernard Morrison, and we've done other things, and I've started up a club activity at my school." But you have to understand that back at those times, most state organizations were oriented toward uh, clubs and tournaments that attracted adult players. And so I felt there was a void there. There was a gap there that needed to be filled because those adult players started. Where did they start? They started as a scholastic
Yeah.
player.
Yeah.
And so I invited a couple of my friends to show up at the board meeting. And then we decided to get on the ballot and get ourselves elected to the executive board of the Southern California Chess Federation.
Okay.
And at that point, they actually had to put an item on the agenda that was called Scholastic Chess.
Which is there to this day.
Yeah,
I do know
and
that.
so we just had an opportunity to say, "Hey, we're here too, and we want your adults to be involved with what we do. Come out and help us direct. Come out and be involved. Bring your children of parents who are involved in your club, and don't worry, we'll take care of them." And so that was a fun experience.
Wow, that's really interesting. So you get elected to the Southern California Chess Federation board, and you're starting to promote chess more and more. And then, how did that connect to your experience on the national level? Maybe you can explain some of your first time working with
Well,
and how you got into it.
yeah, I decided I better find out what this magazine called Chess Life is.
Oh,
And so I got the subscription to Chess Life, and I'm looking at this, and then I come across the tournament. Oh gosh. they've got a junior high school championship, and it's going to be in Terre Haute, Indiana. Well, Indiana, where is that? Well, I taught American history. I knew where it was, and it wasn't anywhere near Southern California.
Right.
So I talked my school board into letting us travel to that event. And I was really, really excited to be able to take a team there. And so we had played quite well at the first day. And then uh, we came to this wall chart showing the team results. And this guy's standing next to me, and he looks up at the team results and he said, "Who are these Bueno Park people?" And we were tied for first place team, and I'm
Oh, yeah.
there listening to him comment, and he expected all the other powerhouse teams like IS 318 and the folks that Sunil Wermantry worked with there up in various places of New York and Philadelphia and Chicago, and then there's these Bueni Parky thing people or whatever. But we went on, and of course, we faced off against some very strong players, and it was nice to be able to participate in that event because I always took the kids out the following day and said, "Okay, now you've already done chess, so we're going to spend Monday, and you are going to do history." And so we went to museums and places of history in the
Nice.
areas where our team competitions was. And so, if I may take a moment there, there is a museum at the base of the arch in St. Louis. So I said, "Hey, we're going to go down from here, this Terre Haute, Indiana. We're going to go down to this. We're going to drive down to St. Louis. We'll fly out of St. Louis." And so we went down there and we entered the museum. And the young lady walks up and she says, "Hello there, I'm the docent, and I want to show your kids a little bit about the Western Expansion Museum we have here." But I looked at her and I said, "Ma'am, is it okay if I do that?" And she said, "Well, yes. Are you a history teacher?" And I said, "I have a master's degree in American history." She said, "Please do, please do." And so I took the kids around. And you see, I want to make certain and here's the point, I want to make certain everybody understands that we can combine activities with our chess program. And
Hmm.
there's a lot of activities out there that you can become involved in. And but I always like to do that.
Yeah, that's very interesting overlap. Um, when was the first time that you began working with Grandmaster Arnold Denker?
Wow, wow. I can close my eyes and I can see that telephone ring.
Oh,
And
interesting.
I picked it up, and on the other end it said, the person on the other end said, "This is Arnold. Can I talk to Dewain?" And I'm thinking, Arnold Jones? Arnold Williams? I oh excuse me, are you by chance Arnold Denker? Grandmaster Arnold Denker? I said, "Yes, I am." Okay, I was ready to stand up and salute, but I know I'm not supposed to do that. But here's a guy that's run the United States Championship twice during the war years, World War II, had served helping meet the troops and did a little chess with the troops and that type of thing, and had been involved nationally with the U.S. chess organization. And now I'm having a great deal of difficulty because why is he calling me? What what I'm no grandmaster. I'm no chess player who's beaten six Russians, and I'm not that. I'm just a guy who works with kids. and chess. And then he made the statement which will never be forgotten. And I have always made certain it was remembered in everything that I've ever done or ever published. He said the words, I want to do something for kids. Oh man, that is a powerful statement. And then at that point, I my mind is racing around. What's he want to do with kids? Well, hold it. He might want to have a simul. I will work on that. And I was on the Scholastic Committee. I joined the Scholastic Committee under Harry Sabine, and so or then I thought, well, maybe if he doesn't want to do a simul, maybe he's got something else, some other little thing in mind. And he said, I want to host a tournament and I want to bring the state champion, the high school state champion of every state. And we're going to add Washington, D.C. as well. And when we do that, we will host that tournament and bring them all together, all of these champions, and let them play each other in a tournament. And now the next thing that comes on my mind is when. And I thought, September? No, school started. October? No. December? Too cold. When are we going to? March? Well, maybe, but then we've also got high school kids that are taking final exams, and all these things are coming up in my mind. Then Grandmaster Denker says, well, it's no problem. I've got a site I think we can use, the U.S. Open. And the U.S. Open. That's the thing that's been around for 100 years. And you want to bring a bunch of noisy high school kids into the U.S. Open? My mind's just going, oh, what are you thinking about here? And then he said some very powerful words. He said, I'll take care of the adults. You take care of the scholastic people. That is one of the most powerful sentences that I was involved with at the beginning, where he said, don't worry about the U.S. Open. Don't worry about the adults. I'll take care of that. So we go to the delegates meeting. The motion is on the floor to create, not the Denker tournament, but to create a high school championship inviting the champion of each state. And his reason for doing that was to expand the state scholastic championships. A lot of people don't know that, but that was the real reason. And so motion's on the floor for the delegates. So Grandmaster Denker stands up, and I thought, okay, I'm good. He's going to take care of all this. I've already talked to the scholastic people. They like the idea. We can work on it. And so he goes up there and, Mr. Chairman, this is good for chess. He turned and walked away and sat down. And I'm thinking, hold it. No discussion, no additional comments, no this, no that, around about whatever this and that. No, absolutely nothing else. And then the chair says, oh, in addition, scholastic support of this is Mr. Barber, and we have him come up and talk about it. And I'm thinking, how do you say something better than what a grandmaster, two-time United States champion, who wants to do something, and he did it in one sentence. And I got up, and my mind is just going round and round. And oh, wow. So I said to him, I said to the delegates, I said, the scholastic community supports the idea. We like it, and we'd like to see it happen. And so it was voted on and approved unanimously. And so I went up to Grandmaster Denker and I said, wow, we now have a tournament at the U.S. Open, and well, we'll organize it and everything. Now, Grandmaster Denker, would you send me, I was thinking, could you send me a list of, instructions or information that I would share with the players? Why are you laughing, sir? I know why he's laughing. Grandmaster Denker looked at me and said, no, no, you can do that. He walked away.
Oh, wow.
Information and rules and times and I did, and that was his way of sharing sharing with me that we were going to host a tournament for a bunch of high school kids at an adult event. I call it an adult event at the U.S. Open, one of the probably the oldest thing that's been running around. And I've
Hmm.
got to write a set of rules.
Right.
And
Okay,
amazing.
before we get into that and pause, can we pause for a second and tip your camera down just slightly? Are you able to tip your camera down slightly?
Yeah, I think we can put it down
Perfect.
something.
Right. Yeah, somewhere right there.
Right
Perfect.
there.
That's good. Yeah, that's better. Okay,
Okay.
yeah, let's continue. So, how did you how did you go about crafting the rules?
I had no idea. I was nobody's national tournament director. I
Uh-huh.
was nobody's international arbiter.
Right.
I was a low, what's the lowest level? The club TD? I
Yeah,
was a
Club
club
TD.
TD.
Yeah.
And here I am thinking, okay, how do I write the rule for so where and that and what's the time control and I'm just going crazy trying to figure this all out. So I wrote a set of rules and I submitted them to him. And next day he writes back and says, "Okay, fine." I thought, "Whoa, that wasn't hard." And so at that point, we hosted our first in 1984. We hosted our first Denker Tournament of High School Champions.
What was it called that at first or
I don't I don't remember if it was. I think it was. I'd have to go back and do a research on that one.
yeah, not
Uh,
super important, but just curious.
yeah, but the interesting note about it was that I started getting all these calls. People call me up. Hey, we're from Missouri and we'd like to play in that. And you know how parents are? That Denker thing. I said, well, you've got to speak to your state affiliate and they've got to approve. Okay, fine. So as I kept getting these comments and thoughts and everything, I think we ended up with 29 players.
Wow.
And so that was okay. There's 29 state champions who showed up and played, and a guy named Ben Feingold ended up winning.
Oh,
Now,
wow.
everybody thinks that Ben Feingold is from Tennessee or New York or whatever. He wasn't. He was a Westerner. He was out west, where Wyoming is and Colorado is. And so, there's a reason I mention him because you see, he also won another tournament, today's tournament that's called the Irwin Senior Championship, and it's a pattern on the Denker. And if I may mention that
Mhm.
as other events were added, they kept asking me, okay, so what are the rules for this, this tournament we're going to host for girls? Uh, I don't know. I'm not that gender specific about this. And so what I did was I took the Denker rules and I changed the name Denker on the top to the girls' tournament. Went through the entire document, rewrote it, and submitted it. Oh, okay, this is fine. And then when we created the K8 event, I
Yeah.
cloned it. When we created the John D. Rockefeller event, I cloned it. And so if anybody thinks that you're looking at a genius, you're not. I am a cloner from way back.
So how many years did it take for the Denker to represent all 50 states?
Um, well, the number of players who played in the Denker is today about 2,000. and
Wow.
2,000 individuals. There were several that played for 2 years or whatever.
Or more,
Of
right? Yeah.
that, there's
Yeah.
about 20 players who went on to become grandmasters. So the
Incredible.
Denker didn't create them as grandmasters, but all the strong players from each state got the message and began showing up and participating. I think it would have been in the 90s, the mid 90s. I think about 96 and 97,
Wow.
right around that time when we're looking at, 50 states. And I created something called a host state alternate.
Hmm.
This is so important to remember. The host state alternate, their job is to be paired if there's an odd number of players. I never, ever want a tournament where a state champion is given a bye. No, that can never be done. And so we allow the state who is hosting the event to add an alternate to be used if needed. And we have been pleased to recognize that alternate. They are part of who we are. And I always want that to be there. I don't care if I've got to go out and walk into a school somewhere in the state where the tournament's hosted and point to a kid and say, you're now the state alternate. Whatever it takes, we need to have that alternate present and available. And if they do not play because there's an equal number, then the alternate is given free chess opportunities within the US Open. What a bonus. If you don't get to play in your event, you get to play in the US Open. So wow, that's pretty exciting for sure. I know. I believe it is anyway.
So when did they break off the K8 and create your own or one named after you, the Barber
Well, that
Invitational event?
that that creates an interesting challenge in that the Barber tournament of originally the tournament didn't have a name.
Hmm.
We just called it the K8. And the
Okay.
reason we had it was that I kept getting eighth grade parents who call me up and say, "Hey, we'd like to play in the Denker." Well, ma'am, I'm sorry, but you can't. Oh, why can't he play in the Denker? Well, because he's not in high school. And so there were disappointed people, and
Hmm.
I don't like disappointed people. So I went before the delegates and I said, hey, I think we need a KA tournament. And so the delegates agreed. So we added it on
Wow.
and add on created another, 40, 45, 50 state representatives. And so it seemed like everything was perfectly okay. I thought everything was okay, except I realized that most of the kids who were playing in that K8 were mostly sixth, seventh, and eighth graders. That
Ah.
rarely would you find a fourth grader or fifth grader playing in the K8 championship of their state. And so a good friend of mine, Sunil Weramantri, came up to me at one of the US Opens and he said, I was wondering if we might be able to consider splitting the K8 event. And I was shocked to see that they put my name on it. After I got it approved, and there's a guy in the back of the room who said, "Motion to amend." Hold it. I got my approval. What do you mean, motion to amend? I don't want to amend anything. I got a K8 tournament. Then David Kuntz of Minnesota said, I want to name it the Dewain Barber Tournament of K8 Champions. And I'm thinking, hold it. I'm still not a grandmaster, and I'm still, an old guy, and so it became known as the Barber Tournament of KA Champions. And so Sunil comes up to me and says, "Hey, could we do something like split off, and we would have your event be the 6, 7, 8?" I said, "Well, yeah, I think it would work." And he said, and then he said, "Oh, okay, I was just checking in with you." Then about 10 minutes later, this guy shows up, and I never met him before. And he was part of the chess group that were having the little relaxation. He shows up and he said, "Are you Dewain?" Yeah, yeah. Hi. I'd like Sunil. My friend came up to me and said that you thought the idea of creating a K5 event wouldn't be bad. And so I still don't know who this person is. And I know most of the scholastic people in the United States, and I'm not saying that casually. And I said, "Where are you from?" He said, "Maryland." Okay. Then he asked a question. He says, "How much does it cost?" So I told him the number, that what it costs to run one of these and provide the prize fund as well as the scholarship and everything. And I'm still curious. I'm thinking, hold it, who is this guy? So I said, "Well, okay, well, we'll ask him." "Sir, I'm sorry, I don't think I've met you before, and I don't know your name. Please share that with me." And he said, "My name is John D. Rockefeller the fifth." Uh, uh, you have to know this history teacher knows his history.
Yeah, yeah.
The Rockefeller family was one of the richest families in the world of the United States. And he had inherited a huge amount of funds.
Right.
Could he afford to sponsor the K5? And the answer is it's not a problem.
Yeah.
And thus, John D. Rockefeller joined our team. And an amazing individual, casual, easy to talk to, a lot of fun to work with. And I big plus for these national invitational events.
Right. Right. And also you did mention the girls event. Can you talk a little bit about when that was started as well? The it's called, I believe it's now called the Ruth Herring.
Yeah.
Um but
Originally, the girls' tournament, I was in Nashville, Tennessee at one of the events, the U.S. Open, I think, was in Nashville. And so I'm just, the weekend's over with. I'm just sitting and having a little breakfast. And I glanced and I noticed this lady was walking toward me. And I thought, oh, okay. But there's not a lot of other people here. And why is she walking toward me? And she came over and sat down in the chair next to me. And then she said, "Hello." My jaw dropped. Uh, Hello, Grandmaster Susan Polgar.
oh.
That
Wow.
was my meeting with Grandmaster Polgar,
Oh, fantastic.
a lovely lady. And then she said, "You're involved with the Denker and with the K8 tournament. Um, can we do something like that for girls?" I didn't know. I don't know, but I'll be happy. I said to her, I said, "I'll be happy to see what it does." And she said, "Would you send me a copy of the rules that would apply to the girls?" Hold it. Put a new hat on, the cloner hat.
Right.
The Denker regs and rewrote them, putting Susan Polgar on the top and the girls' information for the girls for that particular event. And so at that point, Susan was the first representative in U.S. chess to host a national invitational for girls.
Okay.
Later, Susan is to move on to Webster University, and then the naming of the uh, event was given over to the women's international master, and that was Ruth Herring, former president of U.S. Chess, and that is the name currently that's on the event for girls,
Yeah.
and we are supporting that. Um, then
Did you know Ruth Herring?
Vermont. Yes, I did. In fact, she said I wanted to. She came up and she took me aside and we sat down. She said, "Excuse me, Dwayne, but I'd like to become president of U.S. Chess. Can I have your support?" Hold it. I'm lucky to know how the bishop moves. But I have been involved long enough that I said, yes, you have my support because you care about scholastic people. And that's one of the things that I support. And that's what I do support. And then David Grimaud, his wife Maureen Grimaud, who is current co-chair of the women's of the National Invitational, the herring event. David comes up to me and he says, "Hold it, but could we do something like this for seniors?" I keep getting, "Can we? Can we do this? Can we do this? Can we do that?" And so David comes up to me and I said, David, I have to work on it, but I think we could. So I went in, took the Denker regs, cloned them, and sent them off, and sent the senior to the Denker. And so they eventually became the Irwin Senior National Invitational Tournament. And the seniors didn't have to worry about grades. They didn't
Right.
have to be in the third grade. They didn't have to be, you know, I actually, the first year, I got to tell you this one
Sure.
is so funny. The first year the senior event takes place, and I decided, well, they're not going to join us. They're going to have their own reception. They're not going to join us as we have our opening ceremony. So when I had a moment, I stopped by their room and I'm visiting. And there's all the seniors, all the old guys that have been doing chess at least as long as I, if not longer. And I smiled and I said, I want to welcome you to the National Invitationals. It's a pleasure having you become a part of what we're doing here. And we recognize that all of you are champions from the states that you represent. And then I had to say one more thing. And this is what gave me my shrine in the world of chess. I said to these seniors, I said, isn't it great? You don't have to play a kid. And they all had the biggest smiles on their face. I
That's
mean,
fun.
oh yeah, I don't want to play them kids. That 10-year-old beat me, but I want to play Charlie, who's 85 years old.
Right. Right. Wow.
So
So all in all, there is over 250 participants, especially if you include the alternates, and and some 400 to 500 parents probably. I mean the events have grown to either, if not rival the U.S. Open, maybe match, or and I don't know if it's possible to surpass in the future, but still, like, it's incredible. You've increased the size of even the prestigious U.S. Open. So how does that make you feel as an educator and chess organizer?
it's an amazing experience to walk into a room where the U.S. Open is being played, and then this is important, in the same room, you will find all of the state champions playing chess, and even those kids who are in fifth grade quietly sitting and moving the pieces. And that's the amazing thing about it, is that the U.S. Open was selected, and the the site has turned out to be a wonderful opportunity for us to be able to not just um, play a tournament game, but to give all of our players an opportunity to see some of the best players, of which probably one or more will go on to become world champion.
Right.
That's the I think really that's the one of the big uh, things that we have to keep in mind, is that we're dealing with some very talented young people. Let me give you an example. How many kids can play in the Denker? Well, you've got about 52. So
Yeah,
whatever, you've got the alternate, and then you've got an additional DC rep or whatever.
sure.
Okay, so let's test your knowledge. Last year, how many players were master strength players? Had a rating above 2,200 masters played in the Denker.
I believe it's somewhere between 12 and 15. Am I off? It's higher, isn't it? Oh darn! Maybe I'm thinking titled players. Well, I guess titled players are masters, but FIDE titles. Is it 20? 17? 70? I don't know. What is it? What is it? I need to know.
If I remember with my old brain, I think we had 23
Wow,
masters. And then now, when you're wondering whether or not the field is strong,
it's incredible.
below that, you have 10, 12 experts
Right,
on the
right,
verge of becoming masters.
right.
So you think going into this event, if you're a master strength player, oh yeah, look at that. Well, the guy who's number 48, he's rated 1600. Uh, yeah, he is, and he might be your first opponent, but your next five opponents will be masters,
Wow, yeah,
and
because
it's FIDE rated also.
right.
A lot of people don't know that. It's rated, it has an international rating.
Huh.
And so this is not a group this is not a group you want to mess around with. They have been at it. High school kids
Right.
have been at it for a long time. And
So
like I said,
over 3/5 have an expert rating or above. So we're talking like most of the field is professional class almost by this point.
yeah,
What do you
yeah.
what do you attribute that growth in strength of our young students in the United States?
The state affiliates support it.
Mm.
They step up and they say, "Yeah, I want my people there. I want Alabama to be there. I want New Mexico to be there."
Yeah.
Um, and the parents support it too. They find that it's a very good experience for them. It's in the summertime, usually the last part of July, first part of August. And now I have an emotional statement I wanted to share with you. I had one of the young people who was playing in, I think they were playing in the K or they were playing in the K event, and the young man came up. We arranged that all the participants will share a souvenir from their state. So they hand a souvenir and swap a souvenir, a small little pin or some little note of something identifying their city or the state or whatever. And so this young man handed me a small pin, and it said Mississippi on it. And I thought, hold it, we're in Oregon, and he's giving me a pin from the state of Mississippi. That's pretty good. But then he said something that was very powerful. He said, my family and I got in the car and we drove from Jackson, Mississippi to Vancouver, Washington. We did not stop. The reason we didn't stop is we couldn't afford a room night.
Oh wow.
We are here because we want to play chess and represent the state of Mississippi.
Wow.
If somebody looks at my coat and my jacket, you will find the pin from the state of Mississippi on my coat. It's a reminder, it's a statement that we are important and we want to make certain we do the best we can to share. Now I'll move forward, if I may, and talk about the other item that I got.
Yeah.
A few years after that, the kids are bringing their thing, and then one of the moms walks up and she says, my son is so happy to be here. And so I just wanted to mention that we're from Georgia and we're happy to play in this event. And I wanted to give you a souvenir that he passes out to all of the kids. And so okay. And she reaches in her purse and she pulls out a Georgia peach. And she hands me a peach. The following year, we announced no food items should be given
You
to
don't
the
have that
kids
one pinned to your lapel, probably not,
as
right?
as souvenirs, you know. And well, thank you, ma'am. I appreciate getting a Georgia peach, and I'm just wondering who's taking apples off the apple tree.
I actually have a fun question for you that I just thought of. Since you're from Southern California, how many times has Southern California won any of these events? Can you even count that? I mean, it's a tough thing to do right on the spot. I'm putting you on the spot here.
I think we've tied for first a couple of times,
Yeah,
but it's these events are these particular events are so strong and so competitive.
yeah.
It doesn't it uh, it doesn't it's not it's not easy starting in round two to try to be able to win.
Well, I guess the question is, do bigger states have an advantage in these events?
I I don't know. I think that looking at regions, looking at states, it's all about the programs that are being offered. Because
Right.
if a kid is 5 years old and he or she is being or been engaged in chess, then they might qualify as state champion. But there are some kids at the state championship who would easily make out as a competitor in our event. We could easily double.
Right.
We could have two players from every state in every event easily, and we would not lose a nickel. I mean, in terms of the skill level of the players.
Right.
So um, it's it's so very difficult to uh, and they come wanting to have that challenge, and
I mean
I'm
that
excited about
really tells me something about the strength of scholastic chess in the United States. Um, what would you attribute the growth um, and interest? I guess that's the main word I'm looking for. Why is there so much interest now? I mean, obviously you and other U.S. chess members laid the groundwork, but where is all this interest coming from?
I don't know if it's absolutely a connection with education,
Mm-hmm.
although I believe there is that connection. But chess engages the skills of reasoning and all of the other skills that are listed that we try to promote when we're teaching school. In my 30 years of teaching, I realized that chess had those skills. There's no, the word chance comes to mind.
Mm-hmm.
There's no dice, there's no chance.
Right.
In terms of this, it is the reasoning skills that you have that are absolutely what is used and involved in chess. So I think that the support we're getting by the teachers
Right.
in the United States. Also, when the pandemic hit, there was a great drop off in the number of participants. But that's really zoomed back in
Mm-hmm.
because this this opportunity to teach these skills and have this activity was picked up by a number of persons who might have lost their job and said, "Hey, let's see if I do chess. I'm a president of a club or whatever, and I'm going to hook up and I'm going to see if I can provide lessons and instruction." And so instruction and lesson activity came along as part of that. I have already mentioned to Carol Meyer, our executive director of U.S. Chess, that my goal is to see the United States Chess Federation have a membership in the area of scholastics at 100,000 players.
Where is it now?
48,
48,000. Okay.
47, 48,000.
Okay.
Um, I think the next 3 to 5 years, 3 years, I think we're going to have 100,000 kids. And the thing I say, and I apologize to those who probably have their calculators and computers and are disagreeing with me, watch out for the scholastic tsunami. I think it's I think it's going to come.
Wow.
And those people who are teaching scholastic chess, either nonprofit or for profit, need to realize that there will be more kids than you can ever dream or handle that will be coming up to say, I want to learn about the game of chess.
Right.
So if I had to put something on the table and say, this is one of my future goals, one of my future goals in scholastic chess is that our national organization have 100,000 kids who are members and who are active participants in the world of chess.
What a fantastic goal. Um, so I'm going to use that as an opportunity to transition here. Do you think things like, because you're also an author, do you think things like your book, Humor in Chess, add to this element? And first, of course, let's talk about your book series. I mean, because you have 1, 2, and 3, and also tell me what you're proud about producing these books.
Okay. Oh gosh, this light's becoming very difficult. I always have to protect my eyes so I don't want to have the problem of vision problems or
Right.
whatever. But well, okay, no, that's good. Now my eyes have had a chance to rest. So, uh, yeah. Oh, the books. Well, it all started with Ralph Bowman. He and I sat down back in the early 80s and we'd swap stories, funny stories about chess. And a lot of them were scholastic, but there were a few others that we tossed in that we happened to know about because we associated also with some of the local clubs that we had. And then between the two of us, we agreed, hey, maybe someday we'll write a book about humor in chess. People think that chess is always serious. Chess is concentration. Chess is don't bother me. I'm dying here because I'm about to lose my bishop. But actually, we thought between the two of us with our scholastic connections, we thought, hey, why not write a funny book about chess? And therefore, we selected a title, Humor in Chess. Well, of course, you've got to have some type of cover to go on the front to attract people. I happened to be a couple of years ago in Michigan at the National Invitationals, and I was wearing this hat right here. Okay, well, um, my young man, Mike Neatman, comes up to me and announces. He interrupts me and he says, excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, you will notice Mr. Barber is not wearing correct headgear for Wisconsin. And I, hold it. That's a chess board. It's a chess pieces. He said, well, Mr. Barber, that says Route 66, and Route 66 does not go through Wisconsin. Um, okay, so I brought an extra hat. So I took this one off and I put it in the underneath in the podium there. I reached down to grab my next hat. And this is what I was doing.
Your cheese hat.
Ladies and gentlemen, a cheesehead is not anything I expected. And that photograph was an instant photograph that caught my attention because
Right.
I didn't know I had to wear a hat of the state representing the state. And so what we did was we created a book, Humor in Chess. And it's just people who sent us funny stories about chess things.
Yeah.
And I have some stories in there. Ralph has some stories in there. And we we didn't we haven't paid Ralph. We haven't paid me. My wife was the editor. She went through the book and she edited all of the content, put in the periods and started new sentences and new paragraphs and whatever.
Wait, can you tell
So
everybody her nickname real quick?
yes, she's called the comma mama. Yeah, because she did it all. I mean, these are English properly prepared or whatever. And so we decided, hey, let's put a book out. And so that's what we did. The first Humor in Chess book actually won an award, the Chess Journalists of America Award, for the
Excellent.
best self-published book. So I was really pleased by that. And then Ralph says to me, he says, well, I got some more stories. You do? That's interesting. So now, as you know, I want to pay back Mike Neatman for the cheesehead. So I got him this time. He's on the cover of book number 2. And this one, you will notice there's Mike, there's me, and Mike did not know he was on the cover of book 2. We did not tell him. So then, after it was printed, I sent Mike a copy of book number 2. And I get this phone call. What did you do? What? What? I'm on the cover of book number 2. Well, yeah, we're always looking for somebody that's got a funny way of presenting themselves. That picture was taken on the way to the Grand Canyon. They stopped all the cars because they were surfacing some of the roadway. And so we set up our chess set on the trunk of my car and we played a game of chess. And there's like 30, 40 cars behind us. We're just playing a game of chess. And so Mike was there. And so we got this picture with the guy that, the guy's holding the stop sign and whatever. Well, we
Uh,
thought we were done, but not so. We had many, many more stories that were shared with us. And the next one, book number 3, we've decided probably it'll be our last book. Anyway, we had to come up with something that was really good. And we met a young man named Tony Sullivan. Tony lives in Brisbane, Australia. So we wanted to give it an international flair. And Tony does cartoons. If you have not seen Tony's chess cartoons, go look them up because you will find they are very funny. And we have a lot of his cartoons that are in our book. And so, with that, I will show you that one of the covers, book 3, has Tony's cartoon. Let's see if you recognize the person on the cover.
that's fantastic.
And so we have done 3. By the way, book 3 is now in the process of being considered for the Chess Journalists Awards of the United States, and we hope that we get recognized for our chess journalism. Now,
One moment, Dwayne. My dog needs out of the room. Hold on.
okay, I'll take a pause. Back we come. Okay.
Okay, and
Now I wanted to show you one thing, if I may. I know
sure.
that would be done by midnight without a problem.
Well, before you do that though, I do want you to tell everybody, just how incredibly profitable the book has been for you. And that's obviously a joke, but what do you receive as royalties for a book like this?
Thousands of dollars of royalty fees, because here's the rule. This book can never profit any person. Never. All of the profit, all the money from the sale of these books go to the Grandmaster Denker Scholarship Fund. The money will always go to that fund. It will not be, and I have never received any benefit whatsoever financially. Neither has Ralph Bowman or anybody else received benefit because they know that they're going to, they know we are dedicated to seeing that every dollar goes to the scholarship funds of the Denker Tournament of High School Champions.
That's incredibly gracious, and I think it speaks to your overall approach to volunteerism in chess. You did want to show me something first before we get to the subject, though.
Yes, I have something which I think is very interesting. Um, I decided that we needed to have souvenirs of tournaments that happen. And so I created what I call the Crystal Queens. And you will notice that this Crystal Queen here, and you can decide if that's the one you like, or is this the Crystal Queen you like? These are given away. I do not sell them. They can never be sold. They can only be given. That's a very important point. I make these up and I give them away to scholastic organizers, and they are received, and then the scholastic organizer is required to give them away as their tournament may progress. So if they have a lady that happens to win the girls section, then they may give out one of those Crystal Queens. In addition to that, now we're going to test Mr. Dillon's skill at remembering. I don't know if I mentioned it, but I also give away keychain, golden keychain pieces. And the company that provides me with the keychains, I appreciate that company providing me with the keychains, doesn't provide me with 200 at a time. Mr. Dillon, tell me, how many keychain chess pieces, golden keychain chess pieces, do you think I've given away?
Oh, total? I don't know. That's hard. I know you made like 1,000 earlier this year. So 10,000. 10,000.
Not quite
Okay.
10,000,
Okay, I
but
went too
we
high.
are approaching
I went too high.
3,500.
Wow, that's fantastic.
And
Uh,
I give them away to organizers and clubs, and they realize that these are souvenirs. They are not to be sold, they can only be given. And we are pleased to be able to, I'm pleased to be able to do that. I'm making up a batch right now for another school organization that's in the state of Washington, Washington, D.C.
yeah.
Also, I have another one that's that will be in process that I'll be doing as well. But um, I like these because it kid takes it home. What's he do with it? He probably hangs it up in his room, right?
Yeah.
And what happens? Every time he sees it, he thinks chess tournament.
Mhm.
Oh, I went to that state tournament that was hosted, or I went to that Boston City chess thing. I think I want to do some more of that. It's our way of sharing and reminding. And I've been doing that because of a young lady named Irene Darnell of
Okay.
Reno. And that's where it originally came from.
Who is our Irene Darnell?
Irene Darnell was a a young lady, actually, she was 80 years old, who went to elementary schools and she would teach chess. And then she would give away these keychains, but they were just regular black and white keychains. And then one day she called me up and she says, Dewain, I need some more chess pieces. Okay, how many sets do you need? And she says, no, no, you don't understand. Well, what do you mean? All I need for you to send me and charge me is for the pieces, not the pawns. I give away the knights and bishops, the queens and rooks and kings and everything. And so my husband drills them and I put a keychain in, I take them and I give them away to the kids that I have in my fourth and fifth grade class. And I thought, wow, what a great idea. And so I decided to spray them all gold. And that's where they came from. By the way, Irene Darnell is recognized as one of the points of light by the president of
Wow.
the United States.
Wow.
That kind of level of person who dedicates things. And I said, if I can be like Irene and dedicate this activity and continue dedicating this activity. A wonderful lady one, and she passed away a while back. But that that's important. We need to share with them.
Yeah, and I feel like this is your modus operandi, what makes you tick. You have this inspirational generosity. And I want to talk about the current projects that you're working on. You've worked with me over the past year and a half, and we're in the second year of the nonprofit Chess Prodigies, and you've given thousands of dollars there, and you've inspired the organization itself to be a fully volunteer nonprofit. Why do you think the volunteerism is so important in chess and beyond?
I think it's important because we certainly have a pocketbook that needs to have money in it to pay for a car, to pay for a house and a rent. But I also think that we should never lose the volunteerism that has existed in this country. And that means that nobody in Chess Prodigies will ever be paid for any service they provide. That's a dedication we have made.
Mm-hmm.
We are there to donate and volunteer our time and effort and activity. And that's what I think should be one of the opportunities where somebody can join and understand that they do that. When I hosted the Morrison tournaments, and that Morrison tournaments was a grade level tournament, I had people walk in who had worked with me year after year. They only had one statement: where are my kids? They didn't say, well, how much are I going to get paid? Did I get $8 an hour? What's my salary? They knew that this was a volunteer activity. There is no salary. They knew they'd have to pay for the gas in their car to come to the tournament site, to spend the 6 to 8 hours, depending on the section and the length of time. They knew that that was a voluntary activity that they were engaging in. So when they walked in, the only thing they wanted to know was, where are my people? And I would hand them a paper. You're going to have 2 third grade sections. They're over there on the left side of the tournament hall area. You will find the page and the information, and we will be starting in about 20 minutes. So they would go over there, they would record results, etc. They would escort their young people back. I would hand them trophies, and they would present the trophies to those young persons who happen to be playing. whether it was kinder, whether it was grade 4, or whether it was grade 8. And so they knew that in life, we need to have that voluntary component, that we step up and say, yeah, I'll show those kids how to swing a bat. I'll show those kids how to move a pawn. I will show, I will support, I will be involved. And now I'll make a personal statement. I have never received a paycheck for anything that I have done in scholastic chess. I went and Ralph Bowman, my co-author of Humor in Chess, hosted the second Super Nationals. And I went there and I walked the concrete floor for 3 days. Could hardly walk, man. I'll tell you, I walked that concrete floor. And then Ralph came over. I was sitting in a chair trying to recover my feet and my legs and everything. And he said, hey, get your check, go downstairs. So I went downstairs and the guy looked at me and he says, okay, I got your name on the check and it's for $500. We want to thank you for volunteering your 3 days of service. And here's your check. So he handed me the check and I said to him, excuse me, sir, can I have a pen? And he said, well, yeah, you can use my pen. And he figured I was going to make a little note on the left side of the check where it says information. No, I drew a line through the check. And there I wrote the word trophies and I handed it back to him. And I said, this is a donation to your organization. You will go out and buy $500 worth of trophies and you will give them out to the kids that play in your events over the next several years. It's been my pleasure to be here, and I thank you very much also for your service. And then I somehow hobbled back to the hotel. I've been to all 6 Super Nationals, and I've never been paid for anything I have done, nor do I expect payment, nor will I accept payment. You want to donate the money to a nonprofit, then I have information to share with you. But I think there are people out there who are volunteers who will
Yeah.
work towards activity.
And and along with this, you've recently endowed the Barber Tournament of Middle School Champions. Can you tell everybody why you made that decision and what that entails?
Well, I guess I blame, if you have to blame somebody, I've got 2 people to blame. The first person well, not blame, but thank you. I thank David Kuntz of Minnesota because he decided my name needed to go on that national invitational tournament, the Barber Tournament of middle school state champions. And then the second one was that guy who came up to me and said, so how much does it cost to host one of these events? John D. Rockefeller. He reached in his pocketbook and he pulled out the money and said, I want to endow the senior, the Wirramantry Blitz tournament. I want to endow the K5 tournament. I want to endow the Maurice Ashley event that will be coming up next year, probably, or the
Wow.
year after, and a Paul Morphy event, which will follow after that. So John D. Rockefeller inspired me to step up and create an endowment for the Barber. That means the event will be hosted, big word here, let's see if I pronounce it correctly, perpetuity, forever.
Wow.
30 years from now, when Dylan Quercia is an older man, the Barber tournament will happen.
Yeah.
And 60 years from now, the Barber tournament will happen. And so my wife and I decided that this is I guess I have to use Arnold's words, good for chess.
That's fantastic. And I gotta ask, how can you do all of this on two teacher salaries? Gotta ask that question because you're doing so much and it's all volunteer. You're not taking any money, so you're just giving money basically. Um, so how do you do it?
Well, what you have, or what you should have, and everybody should have, is a chief financial officer. My chief financial officer is my wife.
Right, Sue is your chief financial officer. Yeah.
She is the financial manager of what we do. And my mother suggested that we invest in land up in Washington State. And we have received, after having that land for almost 40 years, we have received the funds from that land that also supports what we are. Both of us are retired from teaching. She taught 38 years. I just was a rookie at 30 years of teaching, but we've invested our funds and we have concentrated on making certain that financially, uh, we will be able to manage the future. And I thought, you know, that's nice. We can endow this event, and so we've got some other things to look at, but I will be on stage at the opening ceremony here on, I think it's July 28th in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And at that time, I will meet with Carol Meyer. By the way, the signature for the document, endowment, the contract agreement, was signed on the 3rd of July, just a couple of days ago. And so I think of it as the early 4th of July celebration for chess.
Hmm.
We now have said those kids will be having that event available to them as we go forward.
That's incredible. Um, uh, we have to wrap up here soon, but I think everyone in U.S. chess owes you a debt of gratitude. And at the end of the day, do you can you even count the number of kids that you've impacted? Is that even possible?
I don't think that's possible. I don't think the numbers, because many of the kids that played in the Barber have gone on to play in the high school, and many of those high school kids have gone on to become recognized champions in many, many categories.
And then
I
they
will say
and the,
that I
oh,
will say that
yeah.
my chess was not solely chess in the United States.
Oh, right, right.
Because we were school teachers and we taught world history and American history, if you don't get out there and you don't see it,
Hmm.
I don't think you're as good a school teacher for American and world history as you can be.
Right.
My wife and I have traveled to 126 countries.
Incredible.
In the travels of those, we've had an opportunity to visit many of them for extensive periods of time. During the summer, of course, was when we did this. And I took a little chess with me. I always like to take chess. Packed up some chess sets, put them in my suitcase. My wife got upset. What are you doing taking all that chess set? That's getting in the way of what we're doing here. We're going off to Malaysia, you know. And I'd say, well, my dear, look at it this way. I'm going to go and I'll find a little cafe and somewhere in Singapore, maybe. I'll sit down, set up a chess set. Whoever shows up and we play a game of chess, I give them the chess set, the board, and the bag and the pieces. And I'm going to do that for the 8 sets that are in my suitcase. Look at all that extra space that you can put souvenirs and select souvenirs that can come home with us. Isn't that wonderful? And then she smiled, and I figured, okay, I've done a good thing. then one of my students I met about, he returned and we sat down and talked. I met him when he was 5 years old. Now he happens to be 16. And he came back and we sat down and we talked. And I said, you know, one of the most interesting things I had in my world of chess, and that is to be able to play chess on the Great Wall of China. And I played Alex Wang on the Great Wall of China.
Wow.
Didn't I'd get arrested and thrown in jail, but there we had chess, a game being played, and a nice crowd and audience performed well. They watched and smiled, and they smiled even bigger when well, let's say I didn't do well in that game. Oh, by the way, Alex Wang is a national master now.
Right.
Not, and this is important, not because of me, but because I helped him on the path. He had to take those extra steps.
Hmm.
And I'm not, not saying I was the genius that gave him the genius mind that he became a national master. So
Well, that's
there,
incredible. That's incredible, Dean Dwayne Barber. Oh yeah, I didn't even ask about this. Oh my gosh, there's just so much we can ask. Real quick, to end it, why do they call you the Dean of Scholastic Chess?
yeah. Well. Here I am, relaxed, in a delegates meeting. It's Sunday afternoon. All the delegate motions from rules to this to that have been discussed, and I'm ready to go to my room and then fly out on Monday. And I'm not paying particular attention to one thing or another, but up on the screen, they put up the um, delegate motions that are presented during the meeting. So on Saturday, somebody presented a delegate motion. I didn't particularly notice it because they don't really pass it out. They say, look up on the screen. Well, I was tired. I didn't look at the screen. And then the guy that put the motion up there came forward at a microphone and he started talking. As you know, we have recognized these people who have become deans of American chess. And Denker was one of those, by the way. And so we recognize these, but I think we need to recognize and create the title Dean of Scholastic Chess. So I thought, oh, I got a couple of friends. That ought to be nice for them to become deans of Scholastic Chess. And then our young man, Sean Manross, said that is going to be um, Dewain Barber, Dean of Scholastic Chess. And I looked, uh, did he say my name? He did. And I'm sitting there in total shock because that I did not expect that. And that was there to be voted on. And the chair was informed that they wanted this vote to be by acclamation. You need to understand what that word means. Acclamation means everybody agrees. And they all raised their hands. Of course, I was having trouble raising my hand because I really was concerned about that. Dean of Scholastic Chess? Whoa. And so then they all stood up and I thought, whoa, I don't know. And then the chair asked me to come to the microphone. I did. And he says, please say a few words. And I'm thinking, hold it, you've awarded something, a title that's never been given before. And all the people stood up for you and clapped, and now you're supposed to be able to speak to that. And that was so very difficult to do that. And so that was how it came about. And I truly appreciate the title and the opportunity to um, support and move forward Scholastic Chess.
That's incredible. All right. Thank you, Dwayne. I really appreciate it. Everything you've said today, illuminating and just incredible to hear the history. I think we should end the recording. And any last word?
Well, if it gets too bright, we can always protect our eyes.
Excellent.